Hi, in this video I'll be talking about the comparison of adjectives, that is comparative and superlative adjectives. It corresponds to Oxford Latin Text chapters 24 and 25. You see that over here there are 5 little topics that we'll be talking about. So you might want to break up the video and pause it at certain times just to let yourself absorb the information a little better. Let's start with definitions. Comparative is when you're comparing two things. You say that one is bigger, better, or happier than another. Generally, that's with two things. Those are the comparative forms. When you compare more than two things, you might say that one of them is the biggest, the best, or the happiest. Biggest, best, and happiest are superlative forms. You might be wondering what we call the plain form. We don't always talk about it, but the plain forms big, good, and happy are called positives. So in some adjectives have positive, comparative, and superlative forms. Let's talk now about comparatives. When we use the comparative, as we said before, we're comparing two things. This soldier is braver than that one. The trip was longer than this one. So you see in those two examples in English, we put an ER on them. There are some words in English that we can't put an ER on, and we have to use the word more. So this cup is more full than that one. In Latin, to form the nominative masculine and feminine, we first take the stem of the word, of the adjective, and then add IOR to it. So if we take the third declension adjective fortis, we remove the ending is, and its stem is FORT, fort. Thus, the comparative is fortior, fortior. The word longus, its stem is long. The comparative of that would be longior. The neuter, nominative, and accusative, of course, ending is slightly different. It adds IUS instead of IOR. So therefore, the neuter, nominative, and accusative of fortior would be fortius, and of longior would be longius. Like all adjectives, these comparatives and superlatives as well have 30 forms so that they can agree in gender, number, and case with the adjectives that they modify. So when we decline comparatives, we need to remember that all comparatives use third declension endings. And the masculine and feminine, like many third declension adjectives, the masculine and feminine forms are the same. They decline like many other third declension words and agree with the nouns they modify. So here is the chart for third declension adjectives. So in the masculine and feminine, fortior, fortioris, fortiori, fortiorem, fortiore, plural, fortiores, fortiorum, fortioribus, fortiores, fortioribus. The neuter, as in any neuter, is just about the same except in the nominative and accusative forms. So we will do fortius. Notice that even though the nominative is fortius here, the stem of this word remains fortior. IOR right there. Fortior. So this has an OR in it, even though the nominative does not. In the plural, we'll go fortiora, fortiorum, etc. Moving on to superlatives. Most adjectives form the superlative by taking the stem and adding issimus. And we're going to say issimus That implies that this is going to imply that this is a first, second declension adjective, as we will find all superlatives are. So if we look at longus, it's going to be, the stem is going to be long, and we're going to add the issimus to it. So it becomes longissimus in the masculine, in the feminine, longissima, and the plural, the neuter, longissimum. Fortis then becomes fortissimus, fortissima, fortissimum. Remember that no matter where we begin, no matter what declension adjective we begin with, the superlative is going to be first, second. They all also decline like Magnus as it says down here. Translating superlatives. Not so bad here. They will be the EST form, biggest, bravest. Some adjectives need to have most something, most friendly, although you probably could say friendliest. Um, there is also an alternate translation that we find in Latin. Sometimes the Romans use superlatives when they're actually not really comparing anything, and they just want to say that this guy is very brave rather than bravest. So keep that in mind. Sometimes very whatever is going to make a better translation. Let's talk about the next topic, which is about certain irregular comparatives and superlatives. There are 5 adjectives that we will encounter that form their comparatives and superlatives irregularly. These have to be memorized. They are in fact the words, as we'll see. Let's scroll down and see the words: good, bad, big, small, and much. We notice that there are 2 pairs of opposites here, so that perhaps will help you remember at least what they are. We've got good and bad, big and small, and much is related to small, I suppose. There are also, in these forms, among these forms, there are many of these words that are related to English words. So optimus, this word optimus right here, is obviously related to optimist. Pessimist right here, pessimist. Maximus is like our maximum. Here, minimus, minimum. We've got a plus right here. We've got a minus right here. Plurimus here is somewhat related to plural. There are a couple of also rare words, or words that are rare in English. This peyor is where we get the term pejorative in English, and this melior here is where we get the term ameliorate. So good, better, and best turn into bonus, melior, optimus. Bonus, melior, optimus. Needs to be memorized, as I said before. This melius right here is the neuter form of melior. Bad, malus, is going to go to malus, and then peyor and pessimus. Kind of difficult because the M changes to 2 P's, so got to be memorized. Big, magnus, bigger, major, like major. Maximus, magnus, major, maximus. Small is parvis. It's comparative minor and minimus. Again, this minus is the neuter form of minor. Notice that in these two, there's no I before the OR or the US. So that makes that one a little bit different. The word much is multus. Its comparative is plus, like plus. And its superlative is plurimus. All these superlatives, like the superlatives we just talked about, are first and second declension adjectives, optimus, and all the comparatives are third declension adjectives, just like fortior and longior, as we were talking about before. On a side note, this little plus right here, the comparative plus does not decline in the singular. So it doesn't matter, nominative, genitive, whatever, it doesn't decline. The plural form, plures, does decline. So it has plures, its genitive would be plurum, its neuter would be plura. So something you don't encounter a whole lot. So again, don't sweat that one. Don't sweat the exceptions sometimes, but that is something that's there to be remembered. Finally, we have 2 occasions, special superlatives, on which the superlatives of the adjectives don't add the ending issimus. So here's the first one. An adjective that ends in er in its nominative will double the r rather than adding issimus in superlative. So we have some examples: keller, miser, eiger, pulcher. When they turn into superlatives, keller will go will double its R and go to calerimus. Miser will go to miserimus. Iger, igerimus, and pulcher to pulcherimus. So looking at the comparative as well, the comparative, generally speaking, is formed in a very regular way. Celer, celerior, celerimus. Miser, miserior. Miserior is not unexpected. And miserimus. Iger, igrior, igerimus. Pulcher, pulchrior, pulcherimus. Notice that these ER adjectives can either be, in their positive form, can either be first second declension, like miser, iger, and pulcher. Actually, all these are first second declension, or they can be third declension, like keller. These are certainly the most common examples, but there are others out there. Notice that these guys, in their comparative form, sometimes drop the E out. For keller, that E is part of the stem. Keller, then kellerior. Miser, the E is also part of the stem. But for iger, we're going to go to igrior because in its positive form, this E drops out. It's going to be iger, igra, igrum. Pulcher does the same thing. Pulcher, pulcra, pulcrum. The E is going to drop out right there. So we go to pulchrior right here. Second example, let me just finish there, but notice that in all of them, they keep the E in this superlative form before the double L. Now let's move on to the next thing. There are a few adjectives. 4 of them are the most common here. Similis, similar, faculous, easy, difficilus, difficult, and dissimilus, which you may or may not have encountered yet, but it means not similar. Double the L. So faculous is going to facilimus, difficilus, difficilimus, similis, similimus, dissimilus, dissimilimus. And these, of course, will be us, things. These are second declension. The comparatives are exactly what you'd expect them to be based on the information we've just talked about. Notice that this is only for these 4 adjectives. It's not for any adjective that is ILIS. There are other ILIS words that do their superlatives in the regular way. So I hope this helps, and take care. Catch you next time.